Hi everybody, this is Kate Arthur and welcome to Google Jams. So I'm coming at you live from my house with my ultra cool light sensitive glasses, so I hope you're enjoying them. They're rose colored, which is helping me stay positive as I take this leave of absence to rest my brain to the best of my ability. Obviously I have to get this grad work done, which I am actually very disappointed that I'm unable to present this to you in person. I was really looking forward to sharing some of these ideas with you. I say ideas and not tools because the whole concept behind this technology workshop was to take tools that you're already familiar with and remixing them and showing you some different ways to use them that might help facilitate our quest towards personalized learning and small group instruction. So I have a real affection for some of, not most of middle school, but I have a real affection for these from middle school. And I definitely have fond memories of, early 90s, sitting there at my tape recorder, my double-decker tape recorder, which I had a fancy one. It looked like that. My double-decker tape recorder, listening to Casey Kasem's Top 40, and waiting for that song, the one that I wanted to record, that I needed to have, and my tape was all lined up, right at the end of the last song that I had recorded, and I'd hit record, and it would be Milli Vanilli, and not Extreme, or Color Me Badd, or whatever it was that I was trying to record. And then you have to rewind, and get it right to that exact spot again, and then by the time you got it to the exact spot, maybe that song already came on and you missed the beginning, or sometimes Casey or somebody or the radio would talk over it and you couldn't delete that. So it was quite the experience, doing that. I've always been kind of a nerd when it comes to that. But then once you had the songs that you wanted, you could use your double-decker tape player if you had this. My stepfather actually had this, and I didn't have this in my room. I had something like it that I had access to. But anyway, you would mix it together and put the songs you wanted together for your best friend or that boy or whoever it might be, or if you're really lucky, someone gave you one. But anyway, I have such fond memories of mixtapes. And in addition to that, I was really involved, I can close this out, I was really involved in theater and in dance. And so not only did I create mixtapes with full songs on them, I also cut and spliced things together, like the beginning of one song and the middle of another, so that to create like dance routine stuff or background music for shows. And then when I was teaching theater, I started using GarageBand to do those things, both to record music for myself, but also for background music for shows and things like that. And just how far we've come with the ability to do that type of mixing is amazing. And there's so many different ways to use it. Like, just because I could use GarageBand a really specific way, you could use it the exact same way, but then the purpose, the way we use it to interact with other people, is going to be completely different. So that's sort of the concept of this workshop, is to look at tools that you already know how to use and ask you to look at them in a different way. And you may want to use them the way I've been playing with them, or maybe by seeing the way I've been playing with them, you think of other ways that could work for your content or even your students. Because that's the most amazing thing about teaching. As much as we find best practices that are considered best for everyone, at the end of the day, we each have our own spin on them and our own way to remix them and make them work for our students. So that's sort of the overview of where I'm going. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the objectives after I show you something cool, because I just really want to show this to you. All right, let me... Okay, so this is my first slide, and the idea here was to present this in Google Slides. I'm using TouchCast just so that I can facilitate this from home. TouchCast is really cool, and if you ever want some one-on-one time to play with that, I'd be happy to help you with that. But one other little thing I want to point out to you is the bottom left-hand corner, you've got the Casey's Top 40 from 1994. And in Google Slides, you can embed a video from YouTube and set it to play at whatever starting point you want automatically. So you could be going through a presentation, and if you have one of these little suckers embedded in the corner and set to play, it'll start to play, whether it's a line from, Macbeth, or if it's the beginning of Abraham Lincoln's speech, or just a cool backtrack. You can have that in the background. So that would have been playing as you came into my room, but I just wanted to show you that real quick. These are the 3 objectives for this presentation. We are working as a school toward small group instruction and personalized learning. And we have come so far in regard to our ability to use iPads and use Google Classroom. So this presentation is meant to give you some tools that might act as a bridge for you, because I think we're pretty good, or getting really good, at using Kia and GoFormative or Forms to create formatives and to put kids in groups. But then once we have them in the groups, it's a little fuzzy on what we're supposed to do next. So, if I'm the teacher in the room sitting with these 5 kids who need to be sitting with me, what are the other kids doing? And even if I give them an assignment to do, how can I make sure that they are progressing and not just filling out worksheets or just getting, things done? So this is going to give you some tools to help you give timely feedback to kids, both the kids sitting right in front of you and the kids sitting around the room, to help you have students collaborate with each other, so that when they are in a small group separate from you, we do that with them all the time. We ask them to get into groups and do group projects, but just to facilitate that maybe in a different way and look at it from a different angle. And then lastly, and this one is lofty, I know it's very lofty, I'm very idealistic, but to facilitate intrinsic motivation for those students in small groups. Because at the end of the day, when they're in that small group, most of our kids just want to get the job done and then watch YouTube or work on their math homework so they don't have to do that later. So the more we teach them how to be looking for knowledge to become an intrinsic learner, the more likely they are that when they're in their small groups, they're going to do what we hope they'll do and not just what we've told them to do. And I know that one is lofty. I'm just in the beginning stages of figuring that one out, but those are some of the objectives for these tools. Okay, so again, the goals: working on giving feedback, getting kids to collaborate, and getting kids to make the most of that small group time. So the 4 tools that I'm going to revisit and remix with you are turning in assignments to Google Classroom, which all of our students know how to do, and we know how to assign things to them, but I'm going to show you some other ideas and ways to think about that. Google Questions, I think a lot of us use it as an exit ticket, and it's awesome as an exit ticket, or even just as a opening for the day to get them thinking about an essential question. But there's some other things that you can do with Google Questions that I would like you to consider. Google Forms. So we've used Google Forms in the past as a formative assessment to generate small groups, but you can, and I don't know if you know this, you can add files to Forms now, which is really cool. And I'm just starting to scratch the surface of everything you can do with that. And then lastly, Google Slides, and using it not just to have kids create presentations to turn in, which is an extremely valid way to use Google Slides, but also some new ways to have them create an authentic audience, but also to have collaborative feedback. So, gotta imagine Beck here. But turning in assignments to Google Classroom, the remix. So right now, I think all of us know how to have kids turn in assignments. But as I go back through my Google Classroom stream, it's been months since I've had a student turn in a paper type assignment to Google Classroom. Generally, what I'm using Google Classroom for now is a resource for kids so that they can go back and see what they need to do whatever it is that they're working on. So it's been pretty rare lately that I've had them actually turn something in. I've had to go back pretty far to find something where they did that. So here you can see, this is an old assignment. I had 2 kids, it says 2 are done. 2 kids turned this in after it was due, like it was late. It says 0 not done because 18 are returned. And so what I like to do is as soon as the assignment comes in, if it's a Google Doc that they're turning in or a Google Slide presentation that they're turning in, I'm immediately going to go to this list here, click on all students in the top left corner, and then I'm going to click on return. So without even looking at their assignments, I'm returning them to them. And the reason at the due date. And the reason why I'm doing that is twofold. One, because as soon as they turn it into me, they lose ownership over it. I become the owner of their assignments, which means they can't add anything to it or make any changes to it. Now, if this is something they're turning in for a major grade, that's good. I don't want them to be able to add things to it or add right answers they find out later. But if it's something that I'm looking at to then give them feedback on, I want them to have access to it in class. So if they're turning in their math homework, I want them to have access to it right away. So this way it shows me that those 18 kids had it done. I've given it back to them already. And now as I'm going over it in class, they can add comments to it or they can make changes to it so that they have it for their notes. So this was, they actually did this in groups, but they were able to have this back right away, and then I can comment on it, they can comment on it, they can work on it together immediately rather than waiting for me to look at it, grade it, give them feedback, and then give it back to them. Again, it depends on what you're using it for. And then down here at the bottom, I just have an example of giving student work back immediately as examples. So in addition to returning it to them, I'm also going back and editing the assignment and attaching things that are exemplary. So, and I know that that works really well for a literature-based assignment, but if you have model math problems or maybe something, a DBQ that somebody has written that's really good, this is something, or a paragraph in a lab report, this is something that you could show them right away as exemplary. All right, Julie, if you made it this far, that song's for you. Using Google Questions as a slow jam. The idea here is just that we tend to use Google Questions as exit tickets or opening questions, and that's awesome. That's a really great way to use it. But I'm starting to branch out and use it as a collaborative space for kids to interact with each other. So first of all, this is something that I asked them in regard to Genius Hour. And if you're ever interested in trying to do Genius Hour in your subject, I would be so excited to talk to you about that. In language arts, it's really easy to kind of open the door wide and say explore whatever you want. But you could explore one part of the Civil War, one general, one battle, one tool or weapon. You know, there are different ways that you can narrow that down while still keeping it pretty broad for them to explore. But anyway, this question here was a follow-up to a Genius Hour day. And not only did they answer my question, you can see down here at the bottom where I said, I've updated my responses, check back in, because it's sort of an ongoing conversation between me and them. And as they're getting better at it, as we're building that intrinsic motivation, what am I supposed to do when I'm done with all of my stuff, or just, you know, considering other people, I'm encouraging them to write back to each other. So here you can see 4 replies, 5 replies, 4 replies. They're telling me what they researched today and whether or not they think they're going to continue to explore it. And then I'm writing back to them, asking them questions about it, but so are other kids. They're starting to anyway. It's a slow process. They're more interested in seeing what I have written back to them or what other people have written back to them than to seek out others to read and respond to. But we're getting better at that, and it's building some class community, but also helping them learn how to collaborate and help each other to get some motivation from that. So that's the end of part 1. Click on part 2 to see the rest of the remix ideas. Thank you.